My story into astronomy started when I was around 6 years old. And then also the fact that I can remember the story like
Hello everyone. Welcome to Stardust Discovery.
Hello, Stardust Explorer. Welcome back to Stardust Discovery. And on today's episode, I am excited to bring you, for the first time, a guest of mine whose name is Margaret. Actually, Margaret is a final year PhD student of astronomy at the University of Toronto in Canada here. And we are happy to have you, Margaret.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here as well.
Yeah, so we will be looking into the topic of cultural astronomy from a perspective of a particular tribe of Nigeria, where Margaret comes from. So that's very, interesting because she's also wearing the tribal attire. So we will be hearing a lot about the people of. I will leave it for her to complete. But here we have it. Maybe we should backtrack and start with the introduction proper.
Yeah.
So, Margaret, you want to let the viewers know who you are?
Yes, of course. Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Margaret Ikape, and like I just said, I am final year student at the University of Toronto studying astronomy and astrophysics.
That's and I want to say that's amazing. But when I remember that I also studied astronomy and astrophysics, I mean, like,
doing amazing work.
Absolutely, and I get that all the time when I tell people that I'm studying astronomy. They're like, "Oh my gosh!" So I wanted to give you that feeling too. And then, but it's just exciting to have you here, and I hope you would encourage some of our viewers today with our story about how astronomy, happens even in Nigeria. So today, we want to look at cultural astronomy, but I want us to first backtrack to why astronomy. You said you're studying astronomy and astrophysics, right? So let's find out more about you. So Margaret, you do astronomy? What does it mean to do astronomy? What do you do?
That is a very good question. So, for my current research as an astronomer, I am actually a cosmologist. And what that means is that I study the universe as a whole unit, and focus on the evolution of the universe from how it started to how it got to its present stage and how it will evolve to in the future. And that is different from what my other colleagues, like for example Adeze, studies, because she studies astronomy, where she's studying individual objects in the universe, like black holes and supernovas and stars and things like that. But I am looking at the whole universe as one unit. And so my current research is focused on the epoch of reionization. So that is a period in time when the universe started to make the very first stars. So when the universe started in the Big Bang, the universe was very hot, was very dense, everything was like a soup. Very hot, and as the universe was expanding, it began to cool, and it cooled up to a point where the very first atoms could form. So hydrogen and helium could form, and that meant that light from the Big Bang, without having to interact with the protons and neutrons from the very dense early universe. And that is the very first light we see from the universe, the light we call the cosmic microwave background radiation. And the universe was still expanding. So while it was expanding, gravity caused those atoms that were forming, the hydrogen and helium atoms, to begin to clump together. And over time, those clumps attracted more clumps. And when those clumps became very, very big, the first stars were formed. And it's very interesting to study those first stars because we believe that those first stars were instrumental to causing a transition in the universe from looking cloudy and opaque to being transparent and ionized the way it is today. And that is why that period is called the epoch of reionization. And my research is focused on trying to understand how long it took the universe to go through that transition phase, how long it took the universe to reionize, and how and what the characteristics of those very first stars would be like, because we, with our instruments, we have not been able to see those first stars.
That's amazing. Does it mean that our sun could be one of the first stars?
That is a good question, but the answer is no. Our sun is actually not one of the first stars. Our sun is in a class of stars that we call the population 3 stars. That means it's a third generation star. So we have the very first stars that were found, we call them population 1 stars. Those are the stars that caused the universe to rearrange from what I just described. And then that generation of stars gave birth to a second generation that we call population 2, and then our sun is a third generation. So like
what's making me to laugh is that I also see like the genealogy of the universe here. So we have first generation, second generation, and third generation. Amazing. And you said the universe is ionized. Like, I'm trying to make sense of that in a layman's language. Does it mean that we are ionized even right now?
No, we are not ionized. At least my little knowledge, my little biology knowledge. We are not ionized. We are not ionized. I'm not sure how to explain that more.
Don't mind me. I'm just
in terms of the universe. So most of the elements in the universe are hydrogen and helium, and some other trace amounts of other elements. And most of these elements are bound up in stars and galaxies and everywhere. But the material in between the stars, the material that are in the intergalactic medium or in interstellar medium, those materials are ionized. So it means that the electrons and the protons are separated from each other. They are not bound together to form a neutral atom. That's what ionized means.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much. Let's not dive into that rabbit hole anyways. So let's get back to what we are really here for. So how did you become interested in astronomy for the first time?
Yes, that is a very fun story that I have told several times now.
Wanna hear it?
Yes, my story into astronomy started when I was around 6 years old, actually. I was a very little girl, and growing up in Lagos, Nigeria, you know how it is with power outages and all. And on this fateful night, there was no power in the house, and it was hot, very hot. And so we had to, after dinner, my family and I had to bring out chairs and just sit down in front of the house to cool off. And we were there telling stories and having fun when I saw a shooting star in the sky at night. And as a very inquisitive young girl that I was, I immediately pointed it out to the rest of my family members. And I turned to my dad, who was the person that I would always go to with all of the questions that I have. And I asked him lots of questions. Why is that star moving? Where is it moving to? Is it going to drop somewhere? Can we see it? You know, questions like that a 6-year-old child will think about. So those were the questions I had at that time. And I like to think of that as my introduction to the night sky, because I think that afterwards I became interested in the night sky. I would always look up in the sky and try to count all the stars at night, you know. I know there's actually a very funny story about that. From my place, you actually do not count stars because it said that if you count the stars, you would have so many children.
Oh my God, yeah, linking it to the Bible, right?
Exactly. So anytime I try to count the stars, there will always be someone around me telling me not to do that or whatever. But it didn't stop me from counting the stars. And then so that happened, and then I went to secondary school. Junior secondary school and senior secondary school, SS1, the very first geography class that I had, my teacher came in and taught us about the solar system. And the topic was the sun and the 9 planets at the time. Pluto was still a planet.
Right. I love geography. Like, I didn't know I liked astronomy. That was why I love geography, but I just love geography.
Exactly. And that topic, that class, was very interesting to me. And again, I had so many questions because I couldn't understand why my teacher would say the sun was a star. Like, how is the sun a star? I know I see stars at night, but I see the sun in the daytime. You know, and then why is it big? The stars I see in the night are very small. So why is the sun big? And then how are you telling me the sun is a star? You know, those were the kinds of questions I had. And well, I tried to ask my teacher, and I didn't get satisfactory answers. And then I turned to the library. I started to find books on astronomy in the library. We had very limited material in the library, but then at some point, my parents got involved, and they would bring me newspaper clippings or any resource on astronomy that they could find. And so I started to build interest from then on. And when it was time to go into the university, I just tried to find a school in Nigeria where I could study astronomy. And
they didn't make you go for medicine and surgery?
Well, no. Thankfully, my parents didn't. So
that's what every Nigerian parent do.
Yes, I mean, it didn't. That doesn't mean I didn't have the usual questions like, what would you become when you study astronomy? You know, I had those questions, and I kind of see them as my parents looking out for me, right? At that time, I was only interested in what was interesting to me. I had no idea that, you know, you need money to survive. And so they were looking out for me, like, when you eventually done with this, how would you put food on your table, you know? So I did have those kinds of questions, but they were very supportive, and I'm very grateful for that.
So kind of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very good. So we've been talking about cultural astronomy. Can you give us a bit of a background of what that means?
Yes, cultural astronomy is a branch of astronomy that studies the ways in which cultures throughout history have understood and used celestial objects and phenomena to, you know, interpret and interact with the night sky. And those interactions, those interpretations have influenced the way these cultures, what they practice, what they believe, and how they see the rest of the world. So the cultural astronomy would just be a way that people of old provide insight into how humanity has connected with the cosmos, and helps us to appreciate the different ways in which these cultures engage with the night sky. So it's so many years ago, maybe like tens to hundreds of thousands of years ago, every human being, mostly every African, I think, was an astronomer, because people were very aware of the night sky, and they tried to connect activities on Earth to the things they saw in the night sky. So that is cultural astronomy.
Especially because there was not enough technological advancement at the time, so no electricity to have that distraction of watching television.
No
so
mobile phones.
I guess the night sky could be their TV then. Because it could be so fun
I
to
know.
just watch as opposed to what we do now, eyes on the screen every time.
Yes, and
Yeah.
honestly, I'm tempted to add here now, the night sky. I might be biased, but I know that the African night sky is very beautiful,
It is.
and so I can see
Why they would spend so much time
yes,
just
so
looking
it's-
up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess not having a lot of development have its advantages in that case.
Of course it does. It
Yeah.
does. I mean, there were obviously challenges at the time, but I can imagine that life was
Hard.
a lot simpler. Maybe.
Right? Simpler, exactly. It wasn't as busy.
Yeah.
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 And that's true. Yeah, because the whole civilization right now is not even allowing people in developed world to have a clear sky.
Yes.
Talk more of do real science
Exactly.
at
Exactly.
night. So, which is a challenge on its own.
Exactly.
But anyway, yeah. So thanks for letting us understand what cultural astronomy is about. So I think this sounds like there will be different ways different people would relate with these terrestrial bodies. So that means cultural astronomy will differ from place to place, tribe to tribe, country to country. And which is the whole point of this conversation, because we want to learn about how your people relate with these celestial bodies. So yeah, let's hear about it. Talk about how your people deal with this.
Yes. Okay. So I am Nigerian. I am proudly Nigerian, and I am from the middle belt of Nigeria. I am from Benue State in Nigeria, and in particular, I'm from the Igede tribe. So this cloth is an attire. This is the attire worn by the Tiv people. These are the colors of the Tiv people from Benue State. So I thought I should represent Benue by wearing this today. But this is not exactly what Igede people would wear, but it's from Benue, so I'm wearing that today. But yeah, I am from the Igede tribe in Benue State, Nigeria. And in case you have not visited, you should visit. It is if you are looking to have a peaceful time connecting with the land and just having
nature.
a serene environment where you don't have any noise and distractions from city life, I would recommend you visit Igede. Because
I studied Igede in my life right now. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yes, and so to answer the question, Igede people, like so many other tribes, like you mentioned, have interacted with the night sky, with celestial objects, and they have and these objects in the night sky have influenced the practices and the beliefs of Igede people, just like every other culture in Nigeria and in Africa generally. I will want to start that discussion with a folklore, right? So in the olden days, and probably even now in rural villages, after dinner, children would gather around the elders to hear some of the stories about legends and kings and gods and goddesses, the animal kingdom, and how it all and how it all supposedly came to be, and so much more, right? And so we had some of those stories. I'm remembering the tortoise and
I know, yeah, that's I can't forget. I don't think the Gen Zs understand.
No,
they don't, right? Yeah, let's help them.
Instagram and TikTok.
So this is like moonlight story tales. Yes. Every time you hear about the tortoise always being the cunning animals, and maybe the lion is the king of the kingdom. Like all kinds of stories that we always so excited. I can remember the story
I know, and they weren't just for entertainment purposes, right? Those stories had moral attachments to it.
Exactly.
They had lessons that children could always
I
pick
remember.
from those lessons. You know, they'll tell you the reason why the tortoise has a cracked shell is because he's very cunning, and so children are taught to not be cunning.
Yeah.
You know, things like that.
I think he was thrown from a height, and as he fell, he developed that type of fracture. So that's like the punishment for
being cunning.
He shouldn't be cunning.
Yes. And so I want to start with one of those folk tales from among the Igede people. And so in the past, it was believed that the moon and the stars used to be part of the same objects, the same celestial object. But then, according to the story, there was a time when the world was always in darkness. So the world was enveloped in darkness, and people on the earth struggled to see at night and go about their everyday activity. And so the supreme deity, which is God in this case, saw the people struggling to move around at night and decided to intervene. And so he decided to create light so that people could walk around in the darkness. And so that deity, the supreme being, took an object, a shining object, and made the moon out of it, and then scattered some smaller shining objects around, which became the stars. And so people were now, with the moon and the stars coming out at night, people were then able to see and navigate their activities at night. And that also is the reason why people, when there's a full moon, people would always celebrate and come out, with dancing and all, because they are excited that they have lights in the sky to see. Yes. And also, Igede people have a version of the creation story, which is very simple, really. So according to the Igede tribe, the world was created by a supreme being who is God. In Igede tribe, God is called Ohe. So yes, Ohe, God created the heavens and the earth and all of the living things. And so that is kind of the belief of the Igede people and how the world came to be, right? So God, the supreme being, created the heavens and the earth, and then he had smaller gods that he gave the tasks of creating human beings and creating animals and fishes and things like that. And so everybody worships the supreme God, even if they worship him through all of these other smaller deities. So that is the Igede creation story. But I want to contrast that with the Yoruba creation story. And the reason I picked the Yoruba creation story is because I grew up in Lagos, and I'm a bit familiar with the Yoruba culture. And I think this story is interesting as well. So the Yoruba people are one of the largest ethnic groups in Nigeria, and they have a very rich tradition of astronomy and cosmology in general. So the Yoruba creation story revolves around the deities that they call Orishas. In particular, the Olodumare is the supreme being, and he had two other deities, Obatala and Oduduwa, that played significant roles in the creation of the world as well. So yes, so Olodumare, the supreme being, the God is the source of all of creation, right? So Olodumare decided he wanted to expand his territory on the earth, and so he gave the duty to Obatala and Oduduwa.
Are they his children, or we just made smaller gods?
I think they are those other deities, like smaller gods. I don't
similar to the Igede one.
Exactly. Yes. Yes, so so Olodumare gave the task of creating the earth and all of that to those two orishas, those two deities, Obatala and Oduduwa. So Obatala was tasked with creating with creation in general, and Oduduwa was given the task of making the earth in particular and fertilizing the earth, like causing fertility on the earth. So the way the story goes is that Olodumare gave Obatala and Oduduwa a snail shell that was filled with sand, a hen, it's a chicken, and a chameleon and a palm nut, I think. And so Obatala and Oduduwa came down from the heavens, and then the whole world was filled with water. And Oduduwa poured the sand from the snail shell on the earth and then dropped the chicken on it. So the chicken scattered the sand, and that's what created the earth. And then in order to test that the earth had a strong foundation, they put the chameleon on the ground. And the story goes so that the chameleon walks really slowly. You see how the chameleon walks really slowly because he was afraid that that sand would give way anytime. So that's kind of why the chameleon walks very slowly. And then the palm nuts that Olodumare gave Oduduwa was planted, and it became trees and all. And then I think Obatala was tasked with creating human beings, and also he took from the sand and formed human beings, and Olodumare breathed to them, and they became human beings. So that is the creation story from the Yoruba point of view.
Yeah, I've heard that Yoruba one many times.
Yeah.
But like every time the story comes new again to me.
Yeah.
But that's a beautiful contrast. And there's some similarities there too.
Yeah.
They have to create these smaller gods to do the jobs for them.
Yeah.
Anyway. So yeah, that's interesting. Are there other areas like calendar that the people of Igede make use of the celestial body and their behavior to regulate the living, the way of life of the people?
Yes. So Benue State in general is very big in agriculture, right? So the slogan for Benue State is the food basket of the nation.
Yeah.
So we practically feed Nigeria. And so agriculture is very important to us. And back in the days, Igede people would use the positions of stars in the sky, the constellations, how the phase of the moon regulates, determine planting seasons and harvesting seasons and things like that. And the night sky was a form of a calendar for the Igede people as well. And I think very similarly to other tribes in Nigeria, the Igede calendar follows the lunar cycle. So we have a 7 week month and a 4-day week.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just like the Igbo.
Right. Just like the Igbo culture. So a week in the Igede tradition is made up of 4 days. And that means we have a month is 7 weeks long. It's also interesting that the Igede New Year is in September. And I think it's is it the first week of September? I think that's
similar to the Ethiopian culture. So they have a culture that is called I don't know the name now, but yeah, they also have their New Year's in September.
Yes, our New Year is
the lunar calendar
celebrated in September. We call it Igede Tribe. It is a big celebration, and we celebrate it with pounded yams, of course. So that is before the Igede Tribe celebration. Nobody is allowed to eat the new yam. That is being harvested until the celebration of the new year. So yeah.
Yeah, sounds similar to the New Yam Festival.
Right.
Yeah, Igbo people too. Okay. That's interesting. Can you tell us a bit about how different is doing astronomy in real life, like for you as an astronomer, compared to how the Igede people were doing or are doing it right now?
Yes. So, the way Igede people, other people generally that are not scientists, approach astronomy is very different from the modern scientific approach to astronomy, and it differs in a few ways, and I will just discuss one or two of them. Okay. First of all is the observation and the interpretation, right? So traditionally, Igede people would observe the universe, the night sky with their naked eyes, and try to interpret those events in a way that relates to their current circumstance, right? So if a shooting star is appearing in the night sky, then it must hold some significance to the immediate circumstance, right? So either a chief, a revered chief or king is about to die, or there's a battle going on somewhere and they are losing, so they observe those phenomena and try to interpret it based on what the current circumstance of the people are. But in modern astronomy, we have more sophisticated instruments. We have telescopes, and they're able to use different data analysis techniques to interpret all of this data and understand the evolution of the universe as a whole. Another way that the methods of studying astronomy between the traditional Igede people and modern astronomers differ is in the focus, in the purpose, right? So just like I said, the Igede people would probably study astronomy because they are interested to know how it ties to their daily lives and how it affects their activities, like agricultural activities and culture and the ceremonies and all. But today, studying astronomy is mostly focused on just expanding scientific knowledge and understanding the evolution of the universe in general. I think another aspect would be in the collaboration. So today, modern science, modern astronomers, we work in groups. We have collaborations between different universities and different countries, and we try to share ideas and share data and try to understand the universe as a group. Whereas our old people back in the days only studied astronomy that was specific to their community and their own region. So overall, I think that the traditional Igede approach to astronomy served more practical and cultural purposes within the community than modern astronomy, which serves to offer a broad understanding of the universe through science, through scientific inquiry.
Right. Yeah, I can imagine a lot of differences here, because the people back in the days who just figure things out based on their environment, and it's not even useful to someone out there. So it's only useful to them, right? So it's not like published, no one knows about it except if the story is being told like we are doing today, which is also why we are doing this, because the fact that they did not use sophisticated instrument does not make it less valid.
Exactly.
Right? These are all important in the grand scheme of things. They started this whole idea of trying to understand our universe before development of telescopes and other instruments started, right? So the whole thing started as amateur astronomy.
Okay.
So it's...
And just to also say one or two sentences to buttress that point. A lot of the scientific discoveries that are being made today were predicted very, very long ago by these ancient people that had no access to telescopes whatsoever, right? So for them to have taken time to precisely observe the universe to the point that they could make accurate predictions like that, it meant that these people knew what they were doing, right? So because they didn't have access to telescopes or they didn't publish their results, did not make it less valid, just like you said. So I think it's also important that people are aware that astronomy as a field, even if modern astronomy is new, astronomy in general is not associated with the Western world alone, or it's not a new activity for people on the earth per se. Astronomy has always been with us as long as humans have been around.
Right. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you, Margaret. Yeah, that was very descriptive and entertaining at the same time. Like, I learned a lot about the Igede people, and I'm sure explorers here are also going to be learning when they watch this video. And it's important that we let people know what's going on and what has happened in the past. These activities have not stopped, to be honest. If we go to the villages where there are no access to calendar like that, and especially all the technologies we have today, they still make use of these tools and they remain relevant. I mean, that's how we are able to eat, because those people predict the right time for farming and planting, and they followed it and the yield increase, right? And we have food and all of that. So it's working, which means it's valid still. So thank you so much for throwing light on this. It's very good. It's very good to have you, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Anyways, any last word for people?
Yes. Go out and look at the night sky.
Surely today is a good day to do that, especially if you can find somewhere not polluted by city lights. That would be so good. You will see a very beautiful night sky. All right, so there you have it. We are going to wrap it up for today, and we'll see you in our next video. Take care. Bye.